Hi everyone, welcome to Utah Live Webinar. Thank you for joining us today. Before we start, let me introduce myself. I'm Sam from Utah Division of Program Promotion and moderator for today's webinar. While waiting for more participants to join, I will play a video to introduce Utah.
They call me crazy cause I'm facing all my giants. They try to scare me into thinking I can fight it. They tell me I should never even think of trying. But that's just me, I'm gonna live out in defiance.
Welcome back. Our topics today is using information technology to manage the COVID-19 pandemic by Dr. Amil. Dr. Amil is an assistant professor in Faculty of Information and Communication Technology under Department of Information Systems. He completed his bachelor degree Comstock Institute of Information Technology, master degree and PhD in UTP. Besides Zoom as our main platform, if your friends and family would like to join us together, we are live in our official Facebook page, Utah for You Now, so they can join us there. After our topic sharing, we are having a Q&A session. Please take note that if you have any questions about during the webinar, please click on the Q&A button below the screen and type your questions there, so we can go through the questions together later. The Q&A button is open through the webinar. However, due to the limited time, we may only answer selected questions. All right, now let's welcome our speaker of the day, Dr. Amil.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope all of you are doing good during this pandemic. Today, as Mr. Sam has explained, we will be speaking about the role of IT during the pandemic, especially the COVID-19 pandemic. So let me share with you the slides first. All right, so before I move further towards, talking specifically about the role of IT during the COVID-19, um, I would like to go back in history and get some idea of what kind of pandemics have occurred in the history of humankind, at least in the history which is recorded, and what has been their impact, and then how in recent times the pandemics have been more frequent compared to the previous time. And we will see the factors first. So once we establish these things, then we will move towards the role of IT or digital technology or digital health technology in terms of how it has played a role in terms of managing the COVID-19 pandemic. So in terms of history, if you see here, uh, we can see that since 165 AD, the pandemics, this is a time which has been recorded history. We can see that the pandemics have been part of human history. There has been quite devastating kind of pandemics or epidemics. So just to clarify, epidemics are usually bound within certain boundaries of a nation or in a particular area, whereas once the epidemic goes outside certain borders, it's called pandemics. Once it becomes global somehow. So we see that since the 165 AD, the Antonine plague came and it killed about 5 million people. And if we keep going further, during the Dark Ages in Europe, Black Death came, and that killed about 200 million people. Imagine 200 million is a huge number, and we will see how it is relevant, in terms of the number of population which died in Europe, and how much time it took Europe to recover from that particular pandemic. And then smallpox, and then yellow fever, and all that. One particular thing which is quite noticeable here, and which I want you guys to pay attention to, is after 1980s, you can see that the pandemics, or 1950s particularly, you can see the pandemics have been frequent. Especially in this 20th century and 25th, 21st century, the pandemics have been more frequent. In this particular picture, if you see the number of pandemics which came before the 20th century and the ones which came after the 20th century, the number would be almost equal. So we will see that later why. First, let's see the impact. If you see the impact, the biggest impact was the Black Death. Bubonic plague, which came in the Dark Ages in Europe, it killed about 30 to 50% of Europe's population. Right, so it was originated in rats, and it spread to humans via infected fleas. Moving further, if you see that smallpox almost killed 90% of Native Americans, and that was a huge number. Again, 56 million people died, during that time. In our recent history, in 20th century, the Spanish flu, which at the start of COVID-19, we saw quite a lot of people talking about it, killed about 40 to 50 million people. Now, compared to all these pandemics, if we compare COVID-19, it only killed 1.8 million, although it's a huge number still, but compared to the Black Death or the smallpox, it still is a small number, and we will see why in future. But one thing which has been common in history is that despite the persistence of these diseases and pandemics or epidemics throughout the history, there's one consistent trend that there has been a gradual reduction in the death rate. We can attribute this to a lot of different factors, including better healthcare facilities is one of the major factors to give credit to, that the death rate has decreased. Another important aspect to it is that is the infectiousness of the disease. The infectiousness of the disease, scientists, calculate this based on the R naught value. And the R naught value, based on that, we can know that, one person can affect how many people. Now, the R naught value told us that the measles tops the list. It has the capacity to infect about 16 more people from one person. Whereby if we see COVID, until now, it has the R naught value of 2.5. That means one person can infect another 2.5 people. So this has been one of the, another important factor. Now, why we are talking about these things? Why we are talking about the history and how in earlier times the pandemics have been lesser compared to the 19th and 20th century, and the infection risk, right? All of this is relevant to our topic of the discussion today. So let's move further to see that why the pandemics have been more frequent in the late 20th century. Now, the first factor which has caused the pandemics to be frequent is the global travel. We all know that people are traveling nowadays based on, for the purposes of probably just for the sake of traveling or for work, or because of immigration as well. A lot of people are traveling. So if we compare 2018 with 1990, there's the number of people traveling has increased, it has quadrupled. That 4.2 billion people are traveling by 2018 compared to only 1 billion in 1990s. So we know that the 20th century was the century whereby we had the aeroplanes and the mode of transportations have improved. So a lot of people were traveling. So this is one of the reasons why pandemics have become more frequent. So imagine if, for example, people were not traveling as much as they're traveling now. So the pandemic, the COVID-19 might have stayed in China itself, where it is believed that it was originated. The second reason, which has contributed towards more frequent pandemics, is urbanization. That means people are moving from rural areas to urban areas. Cities have been crowded, and people are living in overcrowded places and unhygienic environments. Flats and condominiums are filled with a lot of people who are living nearby, and the space to live is small, which gives more chances for the viral diseases to spread. The third thing has been the climate change. The climate change, which is a big phenomenon these days, is altering the natural range of disease-carrying insects like mosquitoes. So it is actually increasing the natural range of disease-carrying insects. It is also increasing the risk of floods, which leads to waterborne viral diseases. And also because of this climate change, people have been displaced. People are moving from those areas which have been hit adversely due to climate change to those areas where the climate change has not affected much. The fourth factor is increased human-animal contact. Now, one of these factor is that people are getting animals as pets. People are having zoos. We have cities whereby we have a lot of zoos. And at the same time, the wildlife trade has also increased. And one of the most important reasons that we human beings, we are actually entering the animal habitats, whereby animals were living earlier and we are entering those areas. So that is where, again, because of the increased human and animal contact, a lot of those diseases which were based on this animal and human contact are becoming more frequent. Like for the coronavirus, we know that it was originated in bats. This is one of the famous theory about it. One last factor is health worker shortages. That a lot of nurses are migrating from low and middle income countries to high income countries, so which is causing this sort of imbalance in terms of how these countries can handle the shortage of health workers and how they can handle the pandemics. Now, based on all of this, basically the pandemics have been frequent, but thankfully we have information technology which is here to rescue us. If we see how adverse COVID-19 could be if we did not have health technology or the digital health technology, it might have been more devastating. So digital health technologies have facilitated not only pandemic strategy, but also the response in ways that were difficult to achieve manually. So like a Superman, information technology came and actually rescued us. So this is the topic of the day today, and we will be talking about from 8 different ways in which digital technology has helped pandemic preparedness and response. Now, these 8 different areas are planning and tracking of the pandemic, the screening for the infections, the contact tracing, quarantine and remote working technologies, clinical management, fighting misinformation about the pandemic, finding the drugs, and contactless movement and deliveries. So I have chosen these 8 areas and the technologies in these areas, how the technologies have worked. We'll go one by one and see what technologies are actually helping us in all these 8 areas. Now, first is planning and tracking. The purpose of planning and tracking is to track disease activity in real time and to plan to mitigate the impact of the diseases. Now, there are 4 technologies which have helped a lot in terms of planning and tracking. First is artificial intelligence. Now, artificial intelligence has helped us in risk assessment and forecasting. It has also told us about disease spread, the medication and the treatment. And it has also helped the researchers to collect the existing information or the research about pandemics, about viral diseases. So which eventually helped the researchers to learn more about the pandemics, about the viral diseases, and to come up with solutions. Migration maps, we can talk about this in detail in the next slide. Machine learning models have predicted the spread of the pandemic. And then big data analytics and data dashboards. For example, the real-time data from smartphones and wearable technologies. There have been companies, for example, SV Malaysia dashboard. If you go there, you can see how in real time the pandemic is, or the people who have infections, they're moving from one area to another. Now, based on this information, the countries have been able to track the spread of the disease and also make strategies accordingly to mitigate the spread of the virus. One of the examples which I've picked up is the example of China, for instance. Now, all of us know that China has been successful. I mean, considering the number of population they have, considering that the pandemic actually is believed to be originated from China, they have been able to control the spread of the disease quite successfully. And a lot of conspiracy theories are already there. But to be honest, if we see the way they handled the pandemic, we would not have any room for conspiracies anymore. So for example, these migration maps, what they do is that they collect data from a cell phone, mobile payment applications, social media to collect real-time data on the location of people. Now, why they were able to do that? Because back in 2004, they faced a similar coronavirus, which was SARS, actually. So they faced it, somehow they were ready to face another pandemic. And also because Chinese public has started using the digital technologies at a much faster and much greater pace compared to the other countries. So a lot of people are there using mobile payments, and to one estimate, I mean, if even a beggar on the street is singing a song, he's taking the payment in terms of mobile payments. So they have a lot of mobile payment adoption there. So which helped them to collect data from all these sources, and authorities tracked the movement of people who had visited the Wuhan market, which was the epicenter of the pandemic. Now with this data, coupled with the machine learning models, they were able to forecast the regional transmission dynamics of SARS-CoV-19 or COVID-2 and guide border checks and surveillance. Now, because of their efficient use of big data, they were able to, control and have low number of cases and deaths. So they were able to track people who could be infected, where they have moved, and where they need to put the quarantine rules or any other strict measures. Second is the screening for infection. Now, the purpose of screening for infection, as we all know, is to screen individuals and population for disease, which was one of the major step towards controlling the spread of the disease. Again, artificial intelligence has helped a lot in this. I'll give you an example in the next slide. We all are very much aware of digital thermometers. Wherever we are going, we are facing one person, holding this gun in double quotes, a digital thermometer, and he's trying to get the temperature, body temperature, and he's trying to know whether you have certain symptoms or not. The third thing which helped was mobile application. For example, in Iceland, they came up with one mobile app in which the patients, the people, if they have certain symptoms, they key in the data in that app, and that data researchers use in order to know what kind of symptoms people are facing. And then they do research on it, and they accordingly make strategies, and they come up with the solutions for that. Then another example are the thermal cameras, which are also based on AI. We will see later. Now, for example, these are two examples. Beidou, which is again a Chinese company, has developed an AI-powered non-contact, infrared sensor system that provide users fast multi-person temperature. That means you don't have to scan individuals one by one. Rather, a great number of people can be scanned at one time, right? So monitoring that can quickly detect a person if they are suspected of having a fever, one of the many symptoms of the coronavirus. So this is an AI-based infrared sensor system, which can actually which do not need to have a close contact with the person. Rather, a big crowd can be detected. Now, we know that in KLIA, which is Kuala Lumpur International Airport, and JB Johor Bahru Airport as well, on the entry points, they have put these thermal scanners, which can scan whether a person has high temperature, body temperature, and whether they can be suspected of having any symptoms of the coronavirus. Moving on to contact tracing, which was very, very important, again, in terms of tracing those people who could be potentially infected, and then, quarantine them or, make them separate from those people who are healthy. Now, there are again 4 technologies which helped, IT technologies, information technologies, which helped in tracing the contacts. One is the global positioning systems. For example, vehicles and mobile phones were traced based on the GPS, and again, the strategies were made accordingly. Then we have real-time monitoring systems. Now in China, for instance, they have the camera footages, facial recognition technology. In China is pretty famous. There has been a lot of criticism as well, but they are very advanced in terms of facial recognition technology. Bank card records were there, and based on that, they could monitor the movement of the people in order to trace them. Then again, mobile application, like in Malaysia, we have My Sejahtera, which helps you to trace the contact if you move. Nowadays, Malaysians are very much aware of this app. Everybody's using it. If you go somewhere, you have to scan this app in order to know that you have entered this particular place. And if later somehow they know that somebody entered here with infection, they can alert everyone there to do some COVID testing. And the last is the wearable technology. I'll be telling you the example later. Now, these are the 2 examples I picked. One is from Singapore, which is the app called Trace Together. Now, Singapore has launched a mobile application named Trace Together that exchanges short distance Bluetooth signals. So when 2 people are in close proximity, this app alerts you that whether the other person is infected or not. So accordingly, you can create your distance. Then Germany, for example, has launched a smartwatch application, which collects pulse and temperature and sleep patterns data to screen for signs of viral illness. Imagine you just wearing a smart app, smart watch, and that watch is sending data. And as soon as you have some sort of symptoms, it will alert you that you are having some sort of symptoms and you need to see the doctor. Fourth is the quarantine and remote working technologies. All of us, we are pretty much aware of this. Remote working technologies. Working from home has been the buzzword for everyone working or even studying. So the purpose of it is to identify and track infected individuals and implement quarantine. Now, again, 4 technologies I've chosen here. First is the artificial intelligence powered surveillance cameras, which I'll tell you the example later. Mobile applications, for example, Google Hangout, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, they've all helped us to work from home or to teach from home like we are doing in Utah these days. Again, Iceland launched a mobile app to monitor individuals with COVID-19 and ensure that they remain in self-isolation. And for the global positioning systems, in Australia, for example, individuals breaching the quarantine will be forced to wear tracking devices. Same is the case in Malaysia, for instance. You have to wear a bracelet. If you are moving around with the bracelet, the authorities would know that you have left your quarantine place, and then they will track you down. So again, the next technology was QR code, the quick response codes. Again, I'll give you the example now. For example, in China, the QR codes serve as COVID-19 health status certificate. Now this is coming, this will come in the future. You will see that, for example, if I'm not mistaken, in California, they've already issued digital passports. If you have a vaccination, if you're green, that means you don't have any symptoms of COVID or you're not infected, you are permitted to travel. Similar is the case in China, whereby if you have a QR code which is green, that means you're good to go. Otherwise, you have to self-isolate for 14 days. Now, this is on the right side of the screen. You can see AI, artificial intelligence-based surveillance cameras. They are drone-borne cameras and portable digital recorders, which can actually monitor and restrict the gathering of people in public. And they can also see which person is not wearing a mask. As you can see in the screen, the people who are in red color, they are not wearing the mask. So authorities can find and send them some fines or some charges which they have to pay later. Quite interesting, actually. And moving on to clinical management, again, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and virtual care or telemedicine platforms, they have helped to diagnose infected individuals, monitor the clinical statuses, predict the clinical outcomes, and provide the capacity for telemedicine services. People are nowadays, they're not going to the clinics anymore because there are chances to get infected. So what they're doing is that they're using the telemedicine. I will give you the example of artificial intelligence and virtual care later in the slide. But in terms of machine learning, in China again, machine learning algorithms developed in China can predict the likelihood of developing acute respiratory distress syndrome, ARDS, and critical illness among infected patients. So again, this machine learning is collecting a lot of data, and it's trying to develop this understanding that whether somebody has a normal respiratory issue or somebody has COVID-19. Now, for example, if we can see here, HUAWEI has came up with one cloud-assisted and AI-assisted quantitative diagnosis service. What happens is, if you have certain, pneumonia kind of problems or lung issues, so you can send your CT images, and the technology can process CT images in seconds and differentiate the COVID-19 from other lung diseases. So imagine you don't have to even go to the doctor. You get the CT scan, you send it to those cloud-based services, and they will quickly tell you whether you have any disease or not. Moving on, for example, in Canada, clinicians to patient video visits have increased from approximately 1,000 visits per day in February 2020 to 14,000 per day by mid-May. That means a lot of people are going towards tele-home care or telemedicine whereby people won't be going towards the clinics or the hospitals. Now, one of the predictions, which I think uh, uh, Noah Harari made in his book 21 Lessons from the History, is in the future, because of the biotechnology, because of the health technology, maybe we would not need the general doctors anymore. We won't need, because the AI and the machine learning will replace the normal doctors. So that is a big change that's probably going to happen in the coming future. Now, another area of how technology has helped in COVID-19 is fighting misinformation. Now, a lot of people are spreading chaos. They're spreading, conspiracy theories. At the start, especially, a lot of people are spreading now. COVID is nothing. This is all a conspiracy, and a lot of other things. So, to avoid panic and anxiety, which is caused by these kind of misinformation, and results in widespread chaos and panic buying. A lot of people start buying things in panic, and some people start hoarding essential commodities, because of which the prices go up, and violence on the streets, and discrimination and conspiracy theories. A lot of things happen because of misinformation. Uh, Big data analytics has helped a lot. For example, Google is using algorithms, not humans, to determine the ranking of the content. So they are ranking the content on these different platforms in order to see whether particular content is reliable or not. And then they accordingly show that content to the people. Then artificial intelligence, for example, Google News uses a new set of AI techniques to take a constant flow of information as it hits the web, analyze it in real time, and organize it into breaking news event. That is again, uh, fighting the misinformation. Seventh is finding the drugs. Now, a lot of people are very not surprised, but again, there are a lot of conspiracy theories that why now the drug is out in a matter of 1 year. So among other factors, one of the major factors is that IT has enabled the scientists to break the code of the COVID-19 protein structure or the virus structure. The AI has helped a lot in terms of breaking that, the protein structure. So AI suggests components of a vaccine by understanding viral protein structure. It has helped the medical researchers source 10 of heaps of relevant research papers at an unprecedented pace. So imagine the researchers or the scientists have a pool of information now, which can be actually which can be analyzed with the help of AI, and at the same time, scientists are able to decode the virus and the protein structure with the help of AI. Now, one of the examples is a Google DeepMind. So the DeepMind introduced AlphaFold, a cutting-edge system that predicts the 3D structure of a protein based on its genetic sequence. So imagine how technology has helped scientists to understand the viral protein structure of COVID-19 virus, and then accordingly suggest any particular medicine. Last is the contactless movement and deliveries. Technology became an enabler to make the process of finding the vaccine faster again. And then it enabled the people to move freely without any contact with the people. For example, autonomous vehicles. In US, Toyota-backed self-driving companies, company Pony.ai begins to provide autonomous electric vehicles to deliver packages from local e-commerce platforms. So there is no person driving that car. So in UK, for example, drones are delivering COVID-19 samples. We have cashless payments. We don't have to give the physical currency anymore. We have robots in China, for example. One of the companies, CloudMind company, uses robots to help with patient care amid the coronavirus pandemic. So imagine how the robots or the information technologies helping us to stay contactless. Another important thing which I've actually forgot to put in my slides is the fact that people, while living separate from their families or the parents or their children, they're able to contact them. We use WhatsApp, we use video conferencing to talk to our parents, to talk to our relatives. We are able to watch movies at home. We are able to watch, digital content at home, which makes it easier to somehow stay at home. Imagine if we did not have any mobile phones, if we did not have any, any digital content to watch, it would have been very difficult to stay at home as well. So again, technology has helped us in that way as well. Now, until now, I've spoken about how the how technology has helped us in COVID-19, but there's a flip side to it as well. That how COVID-19 has helped digital technology. So we will talk about it in the next slides. Excuse me. So we will talk about how COVID-19 has helped digital technology. Now, the impact of COVID-19 on technology sector has been phenomenal. And we will see how different companies have, exponentially grew in this time. Now, one of the opportunities, if we talk about the opportunities because of the COVID-19, in the hardware or software sector, a lot of enterprises are ordering for laptops and mobility devices. Why? Because they want their employees to work from distance. So a lot of such orders are coming in. The software sector is growing at a rapid pace. Those technologies which help in remote working and, those software which are related to security issues have been in demand since the COVID-19. Then in IT services, demand for cloud infrastructure services, specialized software, as well as communication equipment and telecom services have grown tremendously. Now, because a lot of people are using IT technologies, a lot of people are on internet nowadays, they're watching movies, people are working from home, so we need these telecom services to work better. So that's why the 5G network deployment has been speeding up, and the adoption of 5G equipment is also speeding up, which in itself, the 5G networks will change a lot of things in our world actually. That's a total different topic in which we can talk about maybe some other day. Then in the network equipment, there's been an increase in the use of teleconferencing, need for even faster access to data, and automation will enhance focus on network equipment and communication. So that is another important impact of COVID-19 on technology. Now, if you can see this slide clearly, a lot of companies have explosively grew in this COVID-19 time, or some companies have just significantly improved. There have been companies which have slowed down, or there have been companies which are worstly affected. But if you see explosiveness, we can see that in video chat and online conferencing, for example, Zoom, in which we are talking at the moment, a lot of people, maybe including myself, I did not know about Zoom existence before COVID, but now everyone, a lot of people are using. Online shopping has increased, healthcare has increased, media and entertainment like Netflix has increased a lot, has explosively increased. Social media apps, food delivery apps like have grew as well. Those areas which have faced slowdown are, for example, real estate companies, online companies, or travel and hospitality. It has been long. I haven't seen Booking.com or Airbnb because we cannot really travel. So that has slowed down a lot. Then if you see the impact, those supermarket, traffic on supermarket websites have increased 161%. The media 80%, telecom 32%. Marketplace like Amazon and these companies 15%. And there have been other companies or other online traffic which has decreased and gone into minus. And worst effect is on tourism industry, whereby people are not able to travel anymore and they are not using those apps anymore. So in Malaysia, for instance, it is predicted that in the coming years, for example, 2021 and 2022, the e-commerce will grow tremendously. For example, that it is estimated by Global Data's e-commerce analytics that Malaysia's e-commerce market is estimated to register 24.7 growth in 2020. This is like a huge number in terms of the growth. The market is expected to reach beyond 51.6 billion Malaysian ringgits, or about 12.6 billion US dollar. So there are a lot of opportunities as well, whereby the technology sector can, or the people who want to go into technology sector or entrepreneurship, technology entrepreneurship, they can keep an eye on this trend. Now, lastly, I would talk about the risks which are associated with COVID-19, the technological risks. Now, there are four types of risks which are associated with the technological risk which are associated with COVID-19. Now, first one is the cyber attacks and data frauds due to sustained shift in working patterns. So a lot of people, even the government, government personnel, they are actually moving towards online work or working from home. So, and a lot of sensitive data or the personal data is on our devices now, which means that there's more chance of cyber attacks or data frauds. So this is one of the risks. The second biggest risk, which might, according to some social science experts, will be one of the most devastating, devastating in terms of social change or the disruption, is that the additional unemployment from accelerated workforce automation. The AI technologies and workforce automation will bring in a lot of unemployment. So again, there are two different scholarly differences there, which talk about this kind of impact. But there are a lot of other scholars which believe that still, since for example, in the late 40s or 30s, where the industrial revolution was at peak or at its end, still people were able to find jobs. So new kind of jobs will emerge because of workforce automation. The third risk associated with COVID-19 is abrupt adoption and regulation of technologies. A lot of abrupt adoption will be there. For example, probably the countries will move towards e-voting. Then the hospitals might go towards telemedicine, and surveillance will go towards auto surveillance or digital technology based surveillance. Now this would pose a challenge to the governments to come up with the regulations and the technologies, in order to regulate the use of technology. So the fourth risk associated with the COVID-19 is the breakdown of IT structure, infrastructure, networks, because there's a lot of load, the technology overload on the infrastructure because of COVID-19, because a lot of people have started using, IT technologies. So because of which there's a fear that the IT infrastructure might break down. So again, this is one of the risks associated. So in a nutshell, if I have to summarize my whole presentation today, that for humans to fight COVID-19, digital technology is a blessing. But for digital technology, COVID-19 is a blessing itself. So it's a two-way road in which human beings are benefited by IT in order to fight COVID-19 or at least manage COVID-19. But on the other hand, we have been pushed about 4 to 5 years in future in terms of technology adoption and in terms of advancements in technology. So that is all for my presentation today. I'm open for any question answer session.
Thank you, Dr. Amil. There's a very wonderful presentation for the IT that related with the COVID. So, dear participants, kindly fill in the evaluation form that I put in the chat box. This evaluation form is used to improve our future webinar. So now is our web Q&A session. So I have a question from Facebook there, Dr. Amil. Is the context of the usage of digital technology during COVID-19, how do you see the future of education in information and communication technology?
This is a very good question, and I think a very relevant question in terms of the COVID-19 and the future, which is now there are different aspects to it. One aspect we should remember is because of all the factors which I also mentioned in my presentation, there are more chances of such pandemics to happen in the future. This is one dark side which we should be ready about. Another aspect is that technology adoption is increasing, which means we need more people which can develop these technologies. We need more people who are ready to come up with these innovative ideas, like technology entrepreneurs. So now, more than ever, in my opinion, in my personal opinion, and based on my whatever I've studied, the education in ICT or information and communication technologies will gain more attention, and will be students or people who will come to this side will be benefited, because in almost all the areas of business, in almost all the areas of education, IT will be one of the most important factors. So I believe this will have a huge impact in ICT education itself, and I think this is the right time where our future students should be thinking about taking up the IT subjects.
All right, Dr. Amil. So here's a question from Zoom about unemployment from accelerated workforce automation. Will the unemployed problem exacerbate in the upcoming years?
Well, like I said, there are a couple of opinions on this. Now, it's not only because of COVID-19, but of course, COVID-19 will push it further. What I mean is that the AI revolution, or the revolution in automation and the robotics, have been happening before COVID-19 itself. But what happens during COVID-19, that this will be pushed for with a greater speed. So definitely, what we can expect is that there would be a time in between whereby there will be more unemployment. Now, if we remember, when the industrial revolution happened, probably in the last century, the same scenario happened, because the things were going towards, before that we were living in an agricultural era, and after that we had industrial revolution. So industrial revolution caused a lot of disruption. A lot of people were unemployed at that time as well. But then at the same time, a lot of new jobs were created. So again, it created a balance somehow. So now there are two sort of group of scholars, which are at one side, they're saying that this will be a big disruption, the automation and the IT and the AI and all these things, and it will actually make a lot of jobs irrelevant. And then there's another group of scholars which say that yes, there will be some jobs which will become irrelevant, and because of which unemployment will come. But at the same time, there will be new jobs created, new areas of studies where jobs will be created. So yes, in my opinion, yes, there will be a time where there will be unemployment, probably for a little time. At the same time, new jobs will be created, and people can go and upskill themselves and get those jobs. I would love to give hope rather than pasting a very black future somehow.
Wow, that's a very wonderful explanation. So the next question will be, I think, is from the student. What are the courses available at University Tunku Abdul Rahman, Utah, which can provide the pathway towards becoming an expert in digital technologies?
Well, since I'm also teaching in Faculty of Information and Communication Technology, we have, within the faculty, we have about 5 to 6 streams. We have one whereby we have information systems, information system engineering, business information systems, computer sciences, computer networks, and also computer engineering. And now we are coming up with another program, which is digital economy technology, whereby we will be teaching students about the latest technology trends and the latest digital technologies. So in FICT, what Utah has tried is to encompass all the areas of ICT and to prepare students according to their own caliber and according to their own interest. For example, just to give one example to you, we have one system, one program, which is business information systems, whereby students can learn about business basics and at the same time about information systems. Now, once they will go out in the market, they will know both, and they will be able to, be a buffer between the business world and the IT world. Similarly, we have computer science whereby students can learn the basics and fundamental computer science. And we are coming up with a digital economy where students will learn about fintech, the blockchain, the artificial intelligence, machine learning. So we are preparing students for the future in order for them to, get ready for whatever kind of challenges students can face. So yes, we have a lot of programs which can actually prepare students for future.
Okay. Thanks for Dr. Amil. So for those who are interested with IT programs in our universities, I will share the information to contact us in the last slide. So the next question will be from Mr. Ng. What are the limitations of information and communication technology in combating such viruses?
Well, at the moment, what is happening is that the entrepreneurs, the technology entrepreneurs, or the people who can use IT, they're using whatever available resources in order to battle this pandemic. At the same time, we have certain limitations as well. For example, one limitation for example, the current digital technologies is that, for example, if I take the example of working from home, a lot of areas, a lot of people are living in areas where they do not have much infrastructure of technology. So this is one of the limitations which people are facing at the moment. For example, the internet speed is bad, or probably they don't have internet at all, for example, in some countries. So they're facing this limitation. At the same time, for example, in terms of contact tracing, if we are using mobile app to contact trace, for example, the example of Singapore, whereby they're using one application in which if two people are coming nearby, and they will, the app will inform both of the people that they are coming nearby and one of them is infected. Now, this is only possible when both of them have mobile phones and both of them have switched on the Bluetooth in their mobile phones. If they haven't done that, the app will not be able to recognize their movement. So then these kind of limitations are there, of course, in the IT world as well. But what is happening now at the moment is that people are, those technology entrepreneurs, they're coming up with new innovative ideas, the scientists or IT people, in order to combat and actually, decrease the limitations of IT itself. So I believe in coming future, we will see a lot of improvement in this.
Okay, thank you for Dr. Amir for the explanation. So the question are same from Mr. Ng. Despite the advancement in IT, why have we not been able to contain the virus until now?
Again, this relates with, in my opinion, I would say that we haven't been able to contain the virus. I mean, because of IT. In my opinion, it has been a great success in terms of containing the virus. But the problem with containing the virus is not unidimensional. It is multidimensional. For example, if the government has to take a decision on whether to impose movement control or whether to, loosen it up, there are many factors. Economical factors are there, political factors are there, social factors are there. People are also already stressed out because of staying inside houses, and the businesses have suffered a lot. So there are areas whereby, yes, IT has limitations, but at the same time, there are areas whereby we humans cannot actually cater to those problems. I mean, we have to create a balance in terms of, having a movement control. So what I believe is, given the current situation, I think IT has performed tremendously well. I think it has enabled human beings to control this pandemic to a much better, place. Rather than if you see the previous pandemics, they were devastating. They were killing millions of people, and we have been able to control that quite significantly because of IT.
All right, thank you, Dr. Amil. So the next question from Ms. Tan: does information technology have the ability to combat future outbreaks of such viruses like COVID-19?
Yes, in my opinion, definitely it has the ability. If you see how it has advanced in the recent years, how it will advance in the coming 4 or 5 years. So, for example, we are being pushed to. I'm sorry for this. So, for example, we are being pushed to in 4 to 5 years in future in terms of technology adoption. So, which means that in the future also, the pandemics, if they happen, and definitely probably that's what they are predicting as well, the pandemics will happen in the future as well. Definitely IT has the capability and will have more capability in order to contain these kind of viruses. The viruses will emerge, but two things will happen. One thing, in my opinion, now using the technology, we are able to reach to a point where we will be able to predict a future pandemic. So which will enable us to get ready for that. And secondly, we will be able to contain that, mitigate it, and actually fight it with some vaccines. So in my opinion, there's a lot of hope in terms of how IT will enable us humans to fight these kind of pandemics.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Amil. So is there any question? Because we're still accepting the question in our Q&A session. Okay, let's see from Facebook area. All right, so I think that's all from all the participants who raised a question. So I will go for our last slide. Last but not the least, today's webinar will be recorded and posted at our official Facebook page, Utah4U, and YouTube channel as well. For further inquiry, you may contact us through live chat, Facebook, WeChat, WhatsApp, and email. Our upcoming webinar will be Eat Wisely, an effortless way of life transformation by Mr. Sim. Thank you for joining us today and have a nice day.
All right, thank you everyone. Have a good day. Stay safe and thank you very much.
Once again, thank you, Dr. Amil.
Thank you, Mr. Sam.